Hey, Monk. Hey, man, the whole gang's here. I think we got all of the moderators. Hey, Master Sword. Alright, let's close this. Oh, Sphax is in here, huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, we have almost all of the moderators. R.I.P. Sphax. Hi, everybody. We got a bit of a different kind of show. Whoops. Oh, I see what I did. Project sample rate. All right. Let me see here. Having some sample rate issues. Hey, nice, Aratasami. Got a keyboard? That's awesome. Yeah, that's working. Okay, so. First, we should do news stuff first. There's not much news this week. But there's one item, and that is that Darkside Detective is now listed on Steam. So while it's not out yet, you can go to the page and you can add it to your wish list. So for those of you who don't know, Darkside Detective is a point-and-click adventure game that I'm working on doing music for. And we're deep in development, midway through it. Hopefully come out at the end of this year. I think that's the current plan. So yeah, you should go onto Steam and add the game to your wish list so that you get notified when it comes out. So that's all for the news today. So yeah, today's episode's a little bit different. I'm going to be structuring it kind of like a lecture. So I have like a sort of a plan laid out for like what we're going to talk about. I made this thing that you can hear, and we'll play it in a minute. We're going to go. Most important question out of the way. Have you played Pokemon Go yet? I have not played Pokemon Go yet, but I'm planning on downloading it. I have to like free up space on my phone. I'm not a big Pokemon fan. I played the very first Pokemon game when it came out, and I wasn't too into it. A little too grindy for my tastes. But I'll try out the new one. Anyway, so this episode, we're going to... I'm going to first go into, like, working with synthesizers, and then we're going to talk about effects, and I'm just going to go over a lot of very basic, common effects that are used a lot in... music production, and show you sort of how they work and what they're good for, and like little tips of mine that can maybe help you do your own stuff better. So yeah, so I have this piece here that I have done no effects and no editing on. I just wrote a bunch of little bits and threw them all together, and it's going to sound awful. So just so you know, this is going to sound terrible, and it's deliberate. X System asks, is the Celesta part of Context Factory Library? Yes, it is. And it sounds great. I love their factory library. So, let's take a listen to this deliberately kind of bad when you release your own Recursion asks, Ben, when you release your own product line of fantastic audio production stuff, will you make a lightweight yet durable Rode MIDI controller keyboard for us? Probably not. Not really my thing, as much as I'd like one as well. Hey, nice. Tiberlio. I'm glad that I could, inspire you. Keep going. So anyway, let's get started. So here's a bunch of instruments I sort of put together. The arrangement isn't really done yet either, but you're gonna hear how bad it sounds without me doing any kind of editing or effects on it. So we have this little Celesta, and I have this like very basic drum kit that comes in, and this weird little synth thing. And this really bad square sound, and a bass. So none of it really mixes well together. That synth is really loud, this square part. It's a square wave. The drums sound kind of thin and don't really mix well with everything. I tried to make the drums sound good on their own. So that's cool. Like, each individual part is okay. This thing needs some work. It sounds kind of neat, but it needs to be a lot of editing. And this sounds okay by itself. But like, you may have noticed that none of it really meshes well together. And we're going to try to use effects and some like mixing and try to make it sound better. But first, let's... Oh, Captain Geo asks, which part did you write first? That's a good question. We started with the Celesta. I wrote this part first. So that was the first part, and then I sort of wrote everything around it. It is two chords, a D minor, and then a minor. Whoops. So D minor, A minor. And yes, the Celesta has a pre-made reverb on it, and we'll get to that too. But so let's listen to this square synth again. So we're gonna do some like techniques that I often used in FTL to make like a synth sound much nicer, like this thing. This is like awful, right? So first I'm gonna load up the synth. I used Sound School Analog, which is a synth in Reactor, and I use that specifically because it's a really simple synthesizer. So first, we might want to take a look at the amp envelope, and so if you don't know, an envelope shapes how the sound is played, how the synth is played. So you have attack, decay, sustain, and release. And they're all kind of different, which makes it a little confusing, like what they control. Like sustain is actual volume. This controls like how heavily it's played. Attack, decay, and release are time-based, where attack has how fast it actually plays the note. So if we go here and we play this, but this is the attack. So if we make the attack slower, you can tell it sounds a lot different. Or if we do really slow, you might not even hear it. Yeah. The note doesn't last even long enough to support the very slow attack. In this case, we're not going to worry too much about decay and sustain right now. But we can also change the release so that it sounds kind of, gives it like a more of a, like a bell tone. So anyway, that is one way that you can like really shape a sound. Like the most important thing, at least in my experience, in any synth, is the envelope, which is attack, decay, sustain, release. You can get a lot of different sounds just by manipulating these 4 controls. I'm going to leave it as it is for now, and we're going to go into doing effects for it. I've lost my notes here. Here we go. So a good way to like make it not sound as grating is to like try a filter, and we'll get into filters too in a bit. I have this delay too. Let's get rid of that. No effect. Let's try a filter here. So I usually like dual filter, and this cuts out frequencies out of either high frequencies or low frequencies out of a sound. So you'll be able to tell the difference here when I start messing with it. Oops. So like this is like cutting out all low frequencies. And you can even see it here. Or let's do this. And repeat. So if I turn it down, so this could be used to like fit it into the mix better by cutting out lower frequencies. So I might like, in this case, I might cut out the lower frequencies like this. Like that sounds a little better. Another way, let's ignore that. I'm going to turn that off for now, and we're going to keep going. Another way we can do it is look at this EQ here, and then try to lower parts of the frequency range that are too loud. So like right here is a little bit louder than the rest of it. So you can like turn this down a little bit. In this case, it may not be very effective for this synth. Like it's pretty subtle. Another way to do it, and I learned this from Star Salzman, who's my favorite like independent artist, is he will listen to a sound and crank it all over the place just to test it and see what sounds the worst when it's cranked, and then he turns that down a little bit. So we go and yeah, like right here, if you crank it there, it actually distorts. So then he would just turn it down a little bit there. So that's like one way of like figuring it out. And maybe it'll be better to do it on like the drums or something. Maybe we'll do that later. But the best way, so let's turn this filter back on. So we're turning down some of the lower frequencies. Snack Styles, which is a great name, says, the difference between what people call filtering and EQing confuse me sometimes. Yes, and I will actually get into that, so you will no longer be confused as to how they work. Hopefully. If I'm doing well. And so anyway, let's do some stuff that I did like for FTL to make this raw synth sound a little better. First of all, I added this filter. So we cut out a little bit of the lower frequencies. We're going to turn it down a little too. Like that. Now we're going to do my classic thing that everyone knows. Add a delay. The delay that I always like to do is the 8th note dotted delay. And I will explain delay in a little bit. And we'll go back over this stuff. But adding a delay to something like a synth can really, really make it sound nice. Now, watch how different this part sounds. And then maybe let's add some reverb. Some simple. So now there's a lot more sound to it, but it mixes better and it sounds more like it belongs there instead of just this loud, obnoxious synth that's just blaring in your face. Dalton Fisher asks, "Is that a built-in delay? Do you mean built into Cubase or built into the synth?" It's built into Cubase, but any kind of simple delay filter will have very similar controls. sorry, Recursion. Recursion says he instantly ruled out arranging this piece for orchestra. Yep, those delays are pretty nasty for arrangement. Sorry about that. Okay, so we just did like a little introduction here of messing with effects to make your sound better. And like as you go, like keep opening the effects, tweaking them, changing them. Never be afraid to like go back and change what you started. So now I'm going to go over basic effects. So in case you don't know what I'm talking about, is like an effect is something you add to a sound to change how it sounds. The simplest thing is like reverb, where you're adding like a room space echo or whatever to a sound. That's like really obvious here. I will turn this off. Turn off everything. You can hear it again in its raw form, right? So that's what it sounds like without any effects. It's just a basic square wave. It's a little. Somebody in the chat pointed out that it does sound a little like there's some kind of more of a pulse in that square wave, but let's not worry about it. It's a square wave. So if we add an audio effect, it's like a thing that the computer does to change the way the sound is. So we are adding a simple delay or a simple echo. I'll get into the weird word usage of delay, echo, and reverb in a bit. It's very confusing, but reverb, echo and reverb mean two different things to audio people. Anyway, so here, we'll do it again. Right, that's what it sounds like without any reverb, and then here it is with reverb. See, very different. So that's just what adding an effect is. It's just like altering a sound somehow. So anyway, I'm going to go over each effect one by one. MLP Blaze, I don't know what it is. Blaze asks, is this track going to be used somewhere or is it just for the stream? I just made it for the stream. I just sort of like put it together just so we could have stuff to make an example with. So I'm going to go one by one through different effects. So first, the most important thing for any effect is its mix level. So it's basically how much of the effect you want, and it's very important and it's easy to overlook. Every effect should have a mix level. Like here's the delay, it has this thing called mix. And like if you have too much of it, it's going to sound awful. So like here we go. Right, that sounds pretty cool, but if you were to have the mix level too high, say 100%, it's like confusing. It's not the same anymore. So yeah, Albie points out sometimes it says dry or wet, like how much of the original mix is like just the dry sound originally. So yeah, that's pretty important too. Like you might see it called that sometimes. So keep in mind that it may not just be called mix or mix level. But yeah, it's very important. And subtlety matters in this case. And like for the reverb, it also matters. If you have too much reverb, like it's gonna sound awful too. Here it is with too much reverb. Like, actually, it doesn't sound that bad, but it's not what we want, right? So yeah, subtlety is super important. And that's why mix level is like, that's why I'm telling you about mix level first. Remember mix level when you're doing effects. Okay, so reverb. We talked about reverb a little bit already, but let's go back to it. So the definition of reverb is random blended repetitions of a sound. It's like the sound of the room or the space the instrument is occupying. It's also the number one thing that amateurs tend to not put in their tracks. When people send me music that they want me to listen to give them feedback, usually the first thing I end up saying is you don't have any reverb. You got to add some reverb to your piece. Without it, it tends to sound really flat, and you don't want that sound. You want, a lot of people are saying like, geez, I don't understand. Like I do like, I put in everything. I put a bass and a lead, and I have like a drums and like stuff in the background, and it still sounds really flat. And it might be because you didn't put reverb in. So it's a very important thing to have. And so here's a reverb. This is like a basic one that comes with Cubase, and it has a bunch of presets where you can set like what kind of room it is. So we can be like, oh, I want it like a church, and then it sets up like a very long reverb time, which means the walls that it's bouncing off are very far away. Or rather, I'm sorry, that's the size. They have the room size. And then time is how much of it you actually hear. So now we've got this church hall, which is much bigger space. We could do this cathedral. Oh, a whole lot different. Or you could have like tank. What does that mean? Probably inside a small tank. Actually, it does not sound like that. So I don't really know what they're talking about. For FTL, I used Grand Chamber for all the synths. This one preset, I think I maybe turned it up a little. Or like you can do these like, I like all these drum reverbs too because they're very, very short ones. I don't know why they call it for drums because I use it a lot for other things. Anyway, you don't have to use presets either. You can make your own things. Like, we got this church reverb, and you can also like decide what frequencies get reverberated. So if you want just low frequencies, you can do that, although you won't hear it very well in this thing. Maybe we'll put something on the drums, and then you can hear it better. So let's go back to these drums and add reverb. Roomworks. We'll do that church hall again. Like, this is way too much reverb for these drums, right? So here, I'm turning down the high frequency reverb and turning up the low frequency. So what's actually being echoed or reverberated so what you're hearing is like the low frequencies, which is not necessarily very useful in most situations. So instead, you usually have the higher stuff. So you could like really crank the high reverb and then have it go forever, right? This is the level and this is the frequency you're choosing that you want to like really emphasize. Yeah, and then like you can change the space. Let's load that back up again. So it's like, it sounds sane. Or you know what, let's do a smaller one. Like this one. And we can do like, we can change the size of the room. Oh yeah, Megan asks, how do you tell if there's too much? Is it a matter of opinion or when it gets muddy, etc.? Yeah, it's gonna be like a combination of opinion and like how well it mixes. So like I'll put in a reverb that I think is going to sound good and then adjust as I go. Again, mix level is a big part of that. You can almost use like just about any reverb for anything as long as the mix level is good. So we'll load up the church reverb again because I like bigger reverbs. So I don't really like it in this situation. Let's try the long snare. What about this shine one? I might have to change the drum kit because it's a pretty weak sounding drum kit. I like Helm's Deep. What does that sound like? Oh yeah, it's got this huge delay on it, so the reverb doesn't kick in until much later, which sounds kind of horrible to me. But anyway, so this gives you an idea of like how reverb works, and you'll find different effects things that will change the way that you do this. So like RoomWorks is great. There's another one in Cubase that I like a lot called Reverence. Yeah, so Reverence is very realistic reverb sounds. So like, but you have to turn the mix level down. Here's the mix level control on this one. And so these sound like real. I don't really know what the difference is or like how the tech works, but this sounds way more real. Hey, X System got Complete. That's awesome. Yeah, I love Complete. It might be the best purchase I ever made, was buying the Complete bundle. So yeah, I don't really know the tech behind different reverb systems. Like, you know, I went to school for mixing, so I didn't really get into like the real engineering aspect of this stuff. So yeah, you'll have to look up elsewhere on the more technical stuff. I don't care about the technical stuff because I'm just making music, and that's I just work with stuff until it works. So anyway, yeah, I love that reverb. It's great. Okay, so that's that's sort of a bit of an introduction to reverb. Usually you want reverb to be at the end of your like effects chain, so you do like all the other effects before reverb comes in. So reverb will be like the last thing you apply to something. You can see I did that on the square tone, because otherwise it'll get weird. Like, actually, let's try it out. So you have, if we put the delay after the reverb, it's gonna try to do delay on the reverb itself, and now I don't know. So it doesn't really sound that bad, but In fact, I can barely tell a difference in this case. Yeah, I can tell a little bit of a difference. But anyway, in general, you want reverb to be the last thing, because you want it to reverberate everything that you did. Okay, so that's reverb. Next thing is delay. So delay, instead of reverb, it's distinct repetitions, generally occurring more than 30 milliseconds after a sound. Unlike reverb is like random and blended, which makes the nice like sound of a room that you recognize. Delay is distinct repetitions, like what you heard with this thing. And let's load up this ping. So it's called ping pong delay because each delay goes from one speaker to the other very quickly. Anyway, like we can have different delays too. You can have like a quarter note delay, which can be kind of confusing. Actually, it's not bad. Or you can do like eighth note delay. Or even like just one measure, which is doing right now. It's kind of confusing. And you can even do like really quick ones, which at this point starts to sound more like reverb. It's like such a quick echo, and then we have like triplets and then dotted notes. This is kind of cool too. Kind of like that a lot, actually. You can also you can just turn off sync on most of them and just like pick a millisecond delay, and it doesn't have to sync up with your clock, although I rarely ever do that. And then this one has controls for, just like reverb, you can pick like filters on like if you want higher frequencies to go through or less. And then this one has a spatial, which is like how wide the stereo mix is. And then of course mix level, super important, like we did before. If you do 100% mix level, it's weird, and you don't want that. So that's delay. So audio people don't use the term echo because it's too confusing. So you just ditch echo and you have reverb and delay are your two terms. And that makes, there's no confusion. You know exactly what you're talking about in both of those cases. So yeah, when working with audio people, don't say echo because it'll sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, reverb, delay. Now you know the difference if you didn't already, and you know how they work. If I'm explaining anything like not well enough, or you want me to go over something again, please let me know, and I will help you out. I will try to explain it better. So we're gonna move on to filters. So a filter is really simple. It simply lets some frequencies through and blocks others. For example, when you have what we call a low pass filter, it will allow low sounds like a bass guitar or like a kick drum or whatever through, and it will block any higher frequencies. This is like my most important mixing tool, is using a filter. So let's load up. We'll have this. The drum kit's really good because it has a wide range of frequencies already. Because like it has a kick and the snare and like a hi-hats. They fill the frequency spectrum. So anyway, so let's listen to this drum kit, right? Stop that. So you can even see right here on my EQ thing, it's covering the entire frequency range from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? Yeah. We're even gonna turn off that because we don't want the confusion of the reverb. Let's get rid of these effects so you don't get confused. Discard. All right. Blaze asks, what is the most important thing to watch out for when making music? That's a pretty big question. Watch out for music theory, I guess. You wanna be able to write good music, and you need music theory to do that. So that'd be my thing. Okay, so basic kit. Where was I? Filter, right. So using this filter demonstration will really help, So dual filter can be both either a low pass filter or a high pass filter, and that's why I like using it, because it's really quick and easy to use. So we got our sound, right? We've got like the bass sounds covered by the kick, and you've got your snare in the middle, and we've got the cymbals, hi-hats on top. So now that you've heard it, we can sort of mess around with this filter. And so I'm going to turn this into a low pass filter by cranking this down, and it will start to cut out the higher frequencies, and you'll both hear and see it on this EQ thing here. So as we play it, I'm going to turn down the higher frequencies here. Notice the only thing, you can kind of hear the other stuff, but the only thing you can really hear is the kick drum. That's because we're using a low pass filter to let low sounds through, and higher sounds are now blocked. You can't even hear the hi-hats anymore. You can turn it way down and just get nothing but the bass, the very deep stuff. So then we can turn that around and do a high pass filter where we take out the low frequencies. It sounds tinny when we do this. And then we can go back down. This is how you get like that, like outside the club sound. If you put it on the whole mix, I love doing this. So we take our entire mix and we add the filter to it, and play the whole thing. See, it sounds like you're outside the club on the street. And then as you walk in, you hear the higher frequencies. There's actually a reason for that. Lower frequencies travel through objects better, which is why you can hear the bass through someone's car better, too. Higher frequencies tend to just bounce off surfaces easier. I'm going to read the chat a little bit here. There's a lot of stuff here. X System asks, will you touch side chaining? I actually don't know anything about side chaining, so I will not be talking about it. I'd like to learn it, but yeah, I don't really do any side chaining stuff. So sorry about that. All right, so we've talked about filters now. So then EQ. EQ, now somebody, I forget who it was, talked about how they didn't know what the difference between a filter and an EQ is. So they do kind of the same thing. It's just how you actually manipulate it. Like a filter is like it's just the controls for how it's done. Like a low pass, the filter is usually like has a greater effect. Like if you use a low pass filter, it's generally going to cut a lot more out than what you're doing with EQ. So EQ is more precision manipulation of the frequency curve. So we'll stick with our base kit here. So you can grab any part of this. I mean, maybe not that. So this is EQ, right? This is a very fancy way of doing very basic stuff with EQ. But anyway, we can create a point on this, and then this visual thing helps with like understanding how it works. So this range represents frequencies. So you have 20 hertz here at the bottom, which is the absolute lowest sound that generally humans can hear, and then 20,000, which is the highest sounds that a human can hear. So like a bass, a kick drum is going to be down here, and then like cymbals and stuff are up here. Human voices are somewhere around here, I think. So you can take a sound and manipulate any part of it. Like if I want the snare to be bigger, find out where the snare sounds. So it's a lot of it's like here. Yeah, it's not a very good snare, huh? And you can crank it, but it sounds weird, right? So you don't want to do too much of it. You want to... Generally, the way I was taught is that you're going to use EQ just to cut things out that you don't want to have in your mix. So like, say you don't... Maybe it'll be better if we find something in the entire mix. I don't know if I can find a really good example of this yet. So, yeah, it's basically a mixing tool. I wish I had a better example of it right now, of using it. But basically, it's like, if there's a part of your mix that sounds really muddy, you might go into instruments, less important instruments, and like turn down some of their louder frequencies, or frequencies that you want to free up to let other things through. So yeah, like you have an instrument that you like, and it's getting drowned out. Go to other instruments and pull down their EQs in certain places that match the sound that you want. Turn those down, and then you can hear the sound that you want a little better. So that's sort of like, it's really just like the difference between filters and EQ to me are just like the way you are manipulating things. I like to do filters first because they sound better in general than using EQ. Everybody's like mileage may vary. Oh, we got a lot of people on now. I hope this is useful. I don't know. Are you guys? Has this been good for you guys? I hope. This is like really different than what I've been doing before in the live stream. So I hope that it's like working out. Anyway, So yeah, EQ is very good for doing precision manipulation, not very good for changing a sound. Like if you just want to change the way a sound is, I wouldn't do it in EQ because you can tend to really break it with it. So EQ is just for subtle mixing stuff, at least for me. Okay, cool. I'm glad everyone's enjoying it. Okay, so let's move on. So yeah, when I'm doing like trying to mix to get everything to fit, I usually like to do filters first. I try those out because they tend to work better. EQ tends to warp a sound and makes it sound really weird. So next is compressors. Compressors are fun. So these require more explanation. They're a little bit more complicated. So compressors. So a compressor can be it's like a little automated mixing robot. They will wait for a sound to reach a particular threshold, like a particular volume level, and then they will push it back down, the volume down. And so it's good for like a sound that's really dynamic. Like maybe it starts out quiet, or maybe parts of it are quiet and parts of it are too loud. The compressor will like make sure that everything kind of stays at roughly the same level. Try to imagine it like a stretchy rubber ceiling, and like volume goes up, right? So like you have imagine volume being like a low volume is low to the floor, and a high volume is above, like towards the ceiling. If it gets too loud, it'll hit the rubber ceiling, and the rubber ceiling will push it down a bit so that it doesn't go as high as it would otherwise. And you get through the controls, you get to decide how high the ceiling is and how stretchy it is. So you can have it less stretchy so that it doesn't push it down as much and you still get the nice dynamic range. Or you can have it be like rigid, and so that it cannot go any higher than a certain level at all. So I hope that kind of like helps a little bit. So let's load up a compressor here on the drums. The drums are always useful because they cover a wide frequency range. Dynamics. Simple compressor. So you can even kind of see. I wish they would use the stretchy wall thing, that's or stretchy ceiling. That they never do it. They always have these like kind of abstract looking controls, which to me are not as easy to understand. So you can see the sound. It's also really subtle, so you may not even hear when you're manipulating it. Probably the easiest thing is that you can tell that the kick drum has now been made quieter. Like it doesn't have the kind of excuse the pun, it doesn't have the kick that it normally has, right? If we turn it off, you'll tell. Notice that kick drum's a lot louder now. If we turn it on, it kicks in and turns it down a little bit. Okay, so we can even like crank this thing too. Like we can turn the threshold way down so the ceiling is lowered, and then we like make the ceiling less stretchy, so it's like a much more rigid ceiling, and you'll be able to tell it sounds really weird. Like it can't get up to any kind of particular height. Oh, see you later, Megan. I'll see you on Monday. Thanks for coming by. Okay, so yeah, it sounds kind of weird, right? You don't want to use it. However, what I like to do to make like kind of a cool sound, if you want to really like I don't know, like indie garage kind of sound for drums, you turn up the makeup gain. So the makeup gain just turns everything up. It's just like another mixer on it. So we turn our makeup gain up, and we make the threshold a bit lower, make it a little less stretchy. Try it again. So you do that, and you get this kind of like, everything's kind of now at the same level. Like we've pushed the floor and the ceiling so close together that the entire sound is just like always at the same level. And so then you get this kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but you have this kind of like rough, loud sound that I kind of like. And if you listen to Gravity Ghost, I think it's called Terraforming on Gravity Ghost. If you listen to that, you'll hear a great like super compressed drums that I like a lot, like the sound of. And then you can just like, turn this down a little. So yeah, that's like what you can do with compression. Normally it's for keeping something from getting too dynamic and too loud, but you can also just like use it to make cool sounds. Every single effect that you can think of can be like cranked in crazy ways to give you like a brand new sound. So that's like part of the fun. Yeah. Oh, and so it's Monktastic says visual EQ is so magic, and yeah, that's something I wanted to point out is like Cubase. One of the cool things about Cubase is every track has a built-in EQ, like visual EQ, with like a analyzer too, a spectrum analyzer built in. So you can do EQ on any track without having to add like an effect or anything. It's just built in right from the start. And that's what's nice about, one of the nice things about Cubase, because a lot of other digital audio workstations, you have to add an EQ to it. But Cubase is built by people who used to use old analog boards, and all the old analog mixing boards would have EQ built into every strip. So you didn't have to do like an extra effect. So yeah, I don't like the twirling knobs to do EQ. I really like the visual, this thing, because it's so much easier to wrap your head around. So anyway, okay, so we did compressors. Let me see. Let me make sure there aren't any questions that I missed here. Gash 3D. I'm not really sure. Gash asks, "What do you do to start a song?" I've been having trouble getting ideas. I usually start by coming up with a chord progression, and combining that with some kind of like tempo and maybe like some kind of groove that I come up with. So yeah, those are some ways that I do it. I'm gonna do other shows and other sort of like lectures like this with talking about how to do chord progressions and like how to come up with ideas for songs, because I know I get that question a lot. And all right, see you later, Dalton. Oh yeah, so Crazor brings up a good point. It says you should really keep your cymbals separate when using compression. And yeah, that's like an important thing that I'm not covering here is when you do drum kits, it might be good to separate a lot of your pieces of drums into different channels because, again, the drum kit covers a very wide frequency spectrum. And so you may want to, like, you may want the kick to be louder, but the cymbals to be quieter or something. So it might be good to separate have like 3 tracks for your drum kit. Like you load the same drum kit into 3 tracks. And just have like the kick on one track, like the snare stuff on the other, and then the hi-hats and cymbals or whatever on a third one, or even a fourth, like separate those two too. And that can help with your mixing. It makes it a lot easier to mix. I'm just doing a demonstration of basic compression. But oh yeah, last thing on compression, we haven't finished that yet, is multi-band compressors. So these are even more useful because they compress different amounts at different frequencies. So again, this is the frequency spectrum. And then it has, this particular multi-band compressor has 4 different compressors at different levels, and you can decide how big those sections of the frequency range are. So you can be like, I want to turn down tons of, like, I want to turn down like half the thing, or just like this part. So you can like compress the kick drum more, or let the hi-hats in more so you can hear the hi-hats better. So yeah, this is probably, I was using the basic compressor because it's easier to explain, but multi-band compressors are really probably what you're going to be using most of the time, because you want to have more precise like control. So yeah, if you can find, if your digital audio workstation station has a multi-band compressor, like use that. It's really good. You can get a lot of good results with it. Try it out, and remember, subtlety. Don't compress it too much or it's going to sound weird unless that's what you're going for. And in that case, it's going to be awesome. All right, so last one, distortion. No, it's not the last one. Next one. Yeah, we got a couple more. Next one is distortion. And distortion is pretty straightforward. It's like a simulation of an amp. I don't know if I have anything good to really like run through distortion. Well, we'll do it with the drums again. Now, distortion you have to be careful with because it might turn out to be really loud right when you load up the effect. So turn your channel down before you start manipulating it. Okay, so I'll just load up a basic amp simulator in this case. And this makes it mono because it's an amp simulator, right? And amps are mono. So this just takes it and crushes it. It deliberately overloads the sound so that it distorts, and that's why it's called distortion. And we can, like in this particular amp simulator, we can like crunch the bass or like have more mid-range or more treble. We can select different cabinets. So distortion will always change your sound a lot. So you have to be careful with it. And like know what you're getting into when you start doing it. Although I guess there are some subtle ones like this one. This is called the tube. And this is really subtle. I don't even use that very much because I honestly can't tell the difference a lot of times. You have like a basic, I think this is a basic digital distortion. You can load like, whoa. Nice. It's actually kind of cool. Anyway, so you get the idea of like a distortion will basically wreck your sound in fun ways. Always worth going into and checking it out. But yeah, it makes, remember that distortion makes your track much harder to mix. Like always keep that in mind. As soon as you add distortion on anything, it's going to be much harder to get it to fit with everything else. So that's why you tend to want to use it sparingly, and know what you're getting into. So another version. So we're going to cover a subgroup of distortion, which is bit crushing. Bit crushing is a kind of digital distortion that lowers the sample rate of sounds. So you get lots of weird digital artifacts. So we'll do that on the drums again. Drums are really good for teaching mixing stuff, it turns out, and effects. Let's see here, distortion, and where's my bit crusher? Here it is. It's really fun. Like if you, here, let's turn it up a little here. If you use it well enough, you get a lot of really fun effects. I actually really like that. I want to keep it for now. Let's just keep that for now. I want it to be punchier though, so maybe we'll add dynamics and that basic compressor and like give it some makeup gain. And then some reverb. So, I don't know, the bit crushers, you can get fun sounds. That's basically what it's for. Actually, don't really like that reverb. It'll end up sounding like the NES sample chip a lot of times. And yes, the NES had a sampler. You could sample, you could put in audio samples on the NES. A lot of Kirby music and like Kirby's Adventure had a lot of samples. Even Mario 3 had some samples in it. Yeah, it doesn't really come through very well. Although we haven't done like proper mixing. We could also like manipulate the EQ. So in this case, we've mangled the drums so much that I don't mind using EQ to like boost something instead of cut, like I talked about before. We could even do like a delay. A little too weird. Anyway, It's fun, but we're going to turn it off for now. So now we're back to regular drums. Oh, with crazy EQ. But we'll turn it off. Turn off the EQ too. Okay, so that's Bit Crush. And then Flange. The last one we're going to talk about is Flange. A flanger will play an identical version of the sound it's applied to, but offset just a little bit. Just slightly. And then it will gradually change that offset in some kind of pattern, like a wave pattern. So it'll change the offset of the sound. And what happens when you have an identical sound that's offset from the other one, you get lots of strange, cool effects. And it's a very old effect. It was done a lot in classic rock because you could do it with tape. Like you could just play another tape that's just like a little bit offset, and you just play both of them. So let's load up a basic flanger so you can see this. I'm going to load it up on the Celesta here. Solo. I have one here already, but we're gonna... Oh, we'll just turn it on anyway. So you get this cool effect, right? So here's without. And then we'll turn it on. You can get such cool little subtle effects that I love it. If you listen, if you turn the rate enough, but turn the rate up enough, you can actually hear the wobbling sound of the offset going back and forth. And then, you know, you've got a lot of other controls for like how much stereo space you want. Or how heavy you want it to sound. You can change the waveform. I love Flange, and I'm gonna be using it more because it's like so fun. You can do it on like a basic synth, and we're gonna make it the first in the effect chain here. We're gonna mess around with this. Turn off the sync. I always like a subtler effect more than the crazier effect, but, you know, depends on what you're going for. Okay, so Recursion says, putting flange on a saw wave is my favorite thing on the planet. We're going to do that right now. Let's do it. Let's change this thing to a saw wave. This is the one time I'm taking a suggestion. Basic square, basic swoop, basic saw wave. Oh yeah, it does sound cool. Here's what it sounds like otherwise. And then with it. Yeah, it does sound really awesome. So yeah, flange. It's super useful to give her, especially with synths, it gives you, like, what is otherwise a very flat sound, it gives it this kind of, like, subtle motion and, like, a texture to it. So there's more subtlety. It does sound really cool. And yeah. Please don't claim ownership over that one modification to this track. Yeah, and Crazor is talking about, yeah, you would like you'd actually put your finger on the tape so it would slow it down. And there are so many other effects for like somebody mentioned chorus too. Like, what's the difference between that and chorus? And I believe the only difference is that a flanger moves the offset and chorus doesn't, and it'll just play lots of doubles at different places past the original. But yeah, I haven't used chorus much, and I should probably do it more. It's something I learned in school and then didn't really mess around with it much since then. Sometimes I'll add chorus to things, but I don't really pay attention to how the controls work or anything. And, oh, Albie's asking about a phaser. Now, phaser, see if I can remember phaser. Yeah, I probably should have done more research on modulation effects, but I didn't think about it. So, I know when things are out of phase. Yeah, I don't really know what this is. Nice, you get some really cool sounds, though. Yeah, I don't. So what I remember from audio phasing is like waveforms that cancel each other out, and you can possibly like mess that up by like hooking up your speakers wrong. In this case, I did do more phasing stuff with audio rather than music type stuff. Um, So, okay, so yeah, we've gone over all the effects that I had planned to go through. Let's go, let's turn that flanger back on here. Yeah, it sounds really cool. All right, so we did everything. Yeah, we covered all of the effects that I meant to cover. So I hope that was really useful for you. We can now just like kind of go through this and try to make it into something useful, or rather something that sounds good. We've got the sine wave here. Let's just start messing around with this stuff. So we've got the sine wave thing that I don't really like. Oops. Let's do. Hang on, I got an idea. I don't know what this is either. Just gonna mute it, move it away. Yeah, I hope it was useful to everybody. And I want to do more stuff like this and more useful like lecture-y type things. I have another one that I'm writing for writing horror music, so that's going to be really cool. I'm not sure when I'll actually do that one, but Aratasami asks, how do you do bipolar sounds? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Okay, so I want to manipulate this sine so it sounds a little better. So let's, I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to make, so you notice that when we listen to the sine wave, do you hear that kind of like popping sound? That's because its amp is too, or its attack is too quick. So we can just like change a little bit of it, and hopefully Oh, it must be this end, so we can actually do the release a little bit too. That sounds a little better. So anyway, let's see here. Oh, what's this in the chat? You have been voted into the community spotlight on music. If you don't want to be up there, drop into something and... Whoa, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that means. But anyway, let's do another one of those flanges. I really like that. Do this, and repeat. Hey, cool. Top of the page. Awesome. Okay, so what was I doing? Gonna do and add the flanger to this thing, see what it sounds like. Oh yeah, that's cool. So here's something I'm doing with the EQ is you can see that the majority of the sound is right here. And we can even turn this down a little bit. And you still get most of the sound comes through like what you want. But you're cutting out a little bit of that frequency so that other things can take that spot. We don't have to do it right now. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I like where it is now. See, we just did some effects and manipulated the envelope a little bit, and now it sounds a million times better than it did before. Oops. Turn that off. Whoops, this is supposed to be here. I'm going to make a new channel with this. So we have Celesta twice. This thing's really quiet. All right, see you later, X System. Thanks for joining, as always. I'll see you next week. Oh, it's Omnisphere. Wow, it's so quiet. So something is really quiet and I can't seem to do anything to change it. Might check the attack values of everything, like, you know, the velocity of the notes. See how that sounds. That's a little better. Oh, cool, it is Spotlight. That's awesome. I'm just seeing the little image that you pasted there. That's awesome. Anyway, I didn't actually have a plan for like where to take this track after we did like the lesson, so I'm just sort of like randomly doing things and seeing how it works. So anyway, now we'll just mess around with this, keep going for a little while, and I'll probably cut it, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. So please, if you got any more questions, please, you know, feel free to ask, and I will happily answer your questions about effects or whatever, or music writing, anything you want. Quill asks, do you usually compress your masters? I will do some amount of compression on my masters, depending on how it's going. I do like I have an amp simulator that I put on my masters, my first pass of a master track, and then I do use Isotope Ozone to like mess around with it after that. But yeah, I don't specifically do compression like every time. It depends on the track. Matthias asks, what is your rule of thumb as to when to use compression? I don't really have a rule of thumb. If something is too loud, I might try to use compression to keep it down. Otherwise, so compression is really just for if something's really dynamic, like has a high dynamic range, lots of quiet parts and lots of loud parts. Something that you can't really handle with like the faders, like turning it up and down a lot. That's what the compressor is for, at least to me. So it's really when something's has a lot of loud parts in it and you want to wrangle that, then I would use a compressor there. But yeah, I don't really have any like hard and fast rules for using compressors. And Krazer asks, I would like to know more about your mastering process. And I will do an entire episode devoted to mastering because I know it's my most requested thing. Now, the whole I say I'm doing a whole episode, but you're going to be disappointed because it's a very simple process. Basically, I put a PSP Vintage Warmer on my track at the end, and then I load that track back up into Cubase, and I put Isotope Ozone on it, and I do a little bit of like EQing there, and I boost it a little until it matches the volume that I want on all the rest of the tracks. That's my basic thing, and we'll do a whole episode of just that. We'll get a couple of tracks together, and we'll do all mastering. I know everyone has been requesting that a lot, so yes, we will do a mastering episode soon. Oh yeah, Crazor says use a compressor for stuff that is too quiet. Yes, that's another thing for sure. If something is too quiet, you might want to use a compressor or like a maximizer on it. Like I'm about to do that with this bass. So, whoops. So we go to Dynamics. Maximizer is a special kind of compressor that is used specifically to boost the sound of something. So we can change the output a little higher. Now it's distorting, so that's no good. Turn down those so it's not too loud. So it comes out a little better. Although this bass just may not be very good for this piece. Anyway, yeah, I use the maximizer because it's got easy controls, and but there are just like a lot of different compressors. You can use any compressor to really boost the sound of something. It works great. Let's see what else we got. I hope I didn't miss any questions. Oh, we've got one from Snack Styles. How does one make their music flow and sound more natural in a digital audio workstation rather than a bunch of musical blocks? That I don't have an easy answer to that. A lot of it is like how you write and how you lead from one section to another, and making sure that your blocks don't sound like samples, but rather sound like instruments being played. It's easy to make electronic music that sounds like it's made up of like sample chunks that are just being repeated. So you have to make sure that like you don't just have like parts repeated over and over again. And you will see me like taking things and copying, pasting them, and doubling them. And that works for some instruments, but a lot of things, like for when I do drums, for example, I will copy and paste drum parts, but before I get to the end of the process, I will go in and manipulate each block of drums so that they have a slightly different part, so they don't all just sound like repeating the same thing. Obi mentions velocity. Yes, velocity is very important too. Change the velocity of every part. Especially more prominent parts, so that they don't all just sound the same. But yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, it's gonna be like Snack Styles. It's gonna be like stuff you learn through experience. Like, just keep writing stuff, write more and more stuff. Get feedback from people, and they'll let you know like what they like and what they don't like. And they're not always going to be very like good at identifying why they don't like stuff, or why they do like stuff, but you just gotta like, once you have a lot of pieces, you can start to figure out what people are liking and what they don't like, and then you can like work to make your stuff sounds better. So yeah, I hope that helps. I know that's kind of like abstract, but I'll see you later, Monktastic. But anyway, yeah, this was I think this went pretty well. So I'm gonna probably cut it here. This is a little bit shorter show than usual, but I think it I think it works. But anyway, yeah, I will be back. I hope to do more Quake live stream, like playing Quake 1, um, sometime this week. If I'm feeling up for it, maybe I'll do it later today. I don't know. And yeah, I will be back on Saturday again to do another creative live stream. I'm not sure what we will do next week, but it might be the horror lecture, or I might just work on another one of my games. And we'll be back to do more Metroid Prime on Thursday. But anyway, yeah, follow me on Twitter. Follow me here on Twitch. And I will see you guys later. Thanks a lot, everybody. And stop.